All right, Real 2K recap. We're covering the games from this past Tuesday and Wednesday. Starting off with the Chicago Bulls, who played the Cavs on Tuesday. Really, no notes. They started kind of an expected starting lineup. Kobe White out, so Kevin Huerter and Isaac Okoro got the start at the 2 and the 3. I'm pretty sure that this whole preseason is a camp battle between Okoro and Kevin Huerter for who's going to start at the 3, whether or not the Bulls decide to go with the shooting and offense of Kevin Huerter or the defense of Isaac Okoro. No other notes. Let's head on over to the Cavs, who in this game started Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Tyson, DeAndre Hunter, Evan Mobley, and Jarrett Allen. They are without Darius Garland and Max Strus. Lonzo Ball had 0 points in this game, 0 for 4 shooting. He made his preseason debut. He's on a 20-minute limit. He's not going to play any back-to-backs this year, so I would not anticipate him to be to get many starts for the team. He's going to be strictly like a eighth man-ish on this team. So Mitchell's going to start at the point while Garland is out, and that means that the two guard. So DeAndre Hunter is. They probably prefer him to come off the bench in a six-man role, but without Garland, they probably need his offense in the first unit. And they started. I think Jalen Tyson makes more sense over Merrill in that kind of starting configuration, just for like defensive purposes. But DeAndre Hunter was pretty good in this game. 17 points, 7 rebounds, 18 minutes. Tyson, for what it's worth, was 0 for 5, not effective in this start, but they do like him long term. And I did mention that Lonzo was 0 for 4, very ineffective in this game. Craig Porter Jr. Made his case for a rotation spot. 17 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, 6 of 9 from the field, 5 of 5 from 3. He's technically on a non-guaranteed contract, but I would have to assume that this performance probably alone ensures that he makes the team. Killian Hayes is in camp, but was kind of quiet. 2 points, 12 minutes. And Tyrese Proctor, he was solid off the bench. 14 points, 5 of 6 shooting, 3 for 4 from 3. Somebody to keep an eye on, especially with injuries in the backcourt. They definitely need some shooting with Strus and Garland sidelined. Sam Merrill also didn't play in this game, and they definitely play a similar style. I could see Proctor filling in for Merrill at times during the regular season. Let's move on over to the Indiana Pacers. The defending Eastern Conference champions got their first action. Isaiah Jackson returned from a torn Achilles and had 3 fouls in his first 2.5 minutes, but he was the starting center. Tony Bradley subbed in until the full second unit line shift that occurred in this game. But just quickly going over the starting unit, it was Nembhard at the point, so I've switched his position for this year. Mathurin at the 2, I've also switched his position. Nesmith at the 3, Siakam at the 4, and then Jackson at the 5. And then, as mentioned, when Jackson got in foul trouble, they subbed in Tony Bradley for 4 minutes. That was the only 4 minutes of action for Tony Bradley. And then the full line shift was the second unit. TJ McConnell, Johnny Furphy at the 2, Jarris Walker at the 3, and then Toppin at the 4, and Jay Huff at the 5. I think James Wiseman also. I didn't put it in my notes, but I'm pretty sure that James Wiseman also returned in this game. Yeah, he did. Hence why I activated him. He didn't really do anything of note in this game, but good to see that both of these guys are back healthy in the lineup. Wiseman technically on a non-guaranteed deal or partially guaranteed deal, so he's in a camp battle with Tony Bradley and Delon Wright, who's not here due to roster space constraints. Delon Wright got kicked in the head and bloodied up, so he had to leave the game after like 4 or 5 minutes. Hopefully that doesn't affect his ability to make the final roster. Heading over to the Timberwolves. They ran an interesting a jumbo lineup in this one. Jalen McDaniels was a DNP. So they went with Conley Edwards, and rather than McDaniels, they started Naz Reid, which I assume means Julius Randle was the small forward in that lineup. Pretty crazy. So as far as the subs went, DiVincenzo came in for Conley at the 1. Then Terrence Shannon came in for Julius Randle, so I assume that would seem to confirm that like Randle was at the 3. So Shannon checks in at the 3. So you've still got Reed and Gobert out there. Rob Dillingham, checked in for Naz Reid, which then pushes DiVincenzo to his natural 2, Edwards to the 3, and then Terrence Shannon to what I assume would be the 4, to do like a 4-guard alignment around Rudy Gobert. So they went full big in the starting lineup, and then by the time they got to the second unit, they went all small. And then coming in for Gobert to end the quarter was Julius Randle. So they ran with Randle at the 5 with 4 guards. So that was that's something that I would definitely want to see in action, just to see how that went. Very interesting lineup by the Wolves in this game against the Pacers. Pacers, of course, love to push the tempo, so Minnesota definitely wanted to match that type of energy. And obviously, the Pacers don't have any bigs that they can afford to go small against. The Pacers probably have one of the worst center groups in the league. The San Antonio Spurs have one of the best center groups in the league, if not the best. Victor Wembanyama, great again. Luke Cornett had a really solid game in this one. Biyombo, Olynyk, like they're pretty stacked at the 5. Where they're not stacked is at point guard. Fox is out for opening night, which is October 22nd. He is targeting November 1st, currently nursing a hamstring injury. So, and Dylan Harper, he's going to be reevaluated in like 6 or 7 days on October 15th. So they went with 4 non-point guards again. Stephon Castle hasn't played yet in this preseason, so Keldon Johnson has been the starting point guard kind of by default. Woof. Yeah, so I don't have a ton of notes for this game as a result, as they're just playing an unconventional, we don't have any guards, but it is kind of concerning that Fox is, again, already sidelined, not getting to develop any chemistry with Wemby during the preseason. I did switch Castle to point guard rather than shooting guard. I switched his position with Harper because Castle was, since Fox has been sidelined in the preseason, he's been running with the first unit in practice. So I would anticipate, especially since he's like a very weak 3-point shooter, he just makes sense to have as a point guard, as like his natural position for the short and long term. Dylan Harper, he kind of interchangeable, but he might profile more as a 2 than as a 1 in his career. There's a lot in flux here. Keldon Johnson I technically have as a 2 right now, but I might swap him and Devin Vassell, depending on how the rotations turn out. A lot in flux with the Spurs and their guard alignment right now. Speaking of the Heat, another team in flux without a point guard. Drew Smith finally he got the start over Jaime Jaquez. The Heat had been running Jaquez as their starting point guard in their first 2 preseason games. Smith was solid in his return from a torn Achilles. He hit a couple threes. Jaquez, for what it's worth, had 19 off the bench, playing a more a role he's more accustomed to. And Kasparas Giacosionis had 8 points, 10 assists in his preseason debut. Hopefully he gets a chance to start before the preseason is over. Norm Powell had 18 points, another good one. They're going to be relying a lot on him for offense with Tyler Hero sidelined. Terry Rozier is yet to make his debut. I don't know if he's going to end up on the team at the current rate. And then the big story is Khalil Ware had another really solid line, 29 points, 12 rebounds, 12 of 19 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3 in 26 minutes off the bench. Tough to keep him on the bench if he's going to be putting up those lines. Precious Achiuwa did not play in this one. Probably not a great sign for his ability to make the team with Ware really exploding this preseason. Heading over to the Rockets. KD made his preseason debut, replacing Tyree Eason in the lineup. So they ran basically their full expected lineup. Reed Shepherd had a solid game, 11 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks, 19, 7, and 6 for Amen Thompson. No notes otherwise for the Rockets. Let's head over to the Jazz, who made their preseason debut. And they started, so Markkanen, Filipowski, and Kessler all sat this one out. So you had Keontae at the 2, Ace Bailey at the Keontae at the 1, Ace Bailey at the 2, Svi Mikhailiuk at the 3, Taylor Hendricks at the 4, and then Jusuf Nurkic at the 5. So big story is Ace. I need to watch the highlights of this just to see how he was performing, but he had the big game in this one, 25 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, with 11 of 16 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3. And you'll note that I have him at shooting guard rather than small forward. I project him to start at shooting guard, as the Jazz do run a pretty jumbo lineup with Markkanen at the 3, and they are loaded with power forward depth. Keontae George, for what it's worth. So Collier also didn't play in this one, so George got the start, had 16 points, 9 assists, solid game for him. Taylor Hendricks made his return. He had from injury. He had a really, I forget exactly what it was, but it was a scary injury last year that knocked him out for the duration of the season. Only played 3 games. He had 15 points, shot 4 of 8 from 3, so they are very happy to see that from him. They would probably prefer not to rely on George Niang for a lot of three-point shooting this year. Jusuf Nurkic had 12 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, 5 of 5 from the field. Probably the best game he's played in years, clearly showcasing himself for a trade deadline or possible buyout down the line in February. Kevin Love made his Utah debut, had 12 points and 6 rebounds. Bryce Sensabaugh he was the backup for Ace Bailey, so Ace had 25, Sensabaugh had 24, so the Jazz absolutely killed it at their two-guard position. Bryce 6'5", 240, Ace 6'8", 210, so they're really big at the two-guard. You could swap maybe these, like it really depends on whether or not Markkanen's going to be at the 3 or the 4. But if Ace is going to be starting, then you got to have these guys at the 2. And Svi is basically small forward size at 6'7", 227. But Svi and Cody Williams were in a sub pattern, so if Ace and Sensabaugh continue to be like subbing for each other, then I would end up swapping Svi over to small forward, where he'd be in the rotation with Cody Williams. And then Walter Clayton Jr., he made his preseason debut. 7 points, 3 assists, 20 minutes. Didn't shoot the ball particularly well, but whatever, he's a rookie point guard. Heading over to the Boston Celtics. So DNPs for Peyton Pritchard and Anthony Simons, so no point guard. Derek White got the start at point guard. He had 16 points, 10 assists, and that means Jaylen Brown. I currently have him at power forward at 6'6", 237. We'll see. Obviously, they played a different lineup today because they didn't use any of their point guards. White and Baylor Shireman backed up White, so those were the point guards for this game. So Jaylen Brown played his original position, shooting guard. He had 21 points, and then he was joined in the starting lineup by Sam Hauser at the 3, Chris Boucher at the 4, and then Xavier Tillman at the 5. Tillman had been the lost man in Boston thus far, but he's certainly the most experienced of their options and probably the closest to Al Horford. So I think nobody's been talking about him. Everybody's kind of been focused on like Neemias Queta because he did play more than Tillman last year. But I think Tillman might have the leg up over Queta. Although it is worth noting that Queta also did not play in this game. But, it's just something to put in the back of my mind. I do think that Luka Garza is probably the best option of the 3, but because he's more of an offensive player than a defensive player, he's probably destined for like a 6-man type of role. He had 10 points, 10 rebounds off the bench in this one. Shireman, he had 13 points, but was 3 of 13 from the field. Obviously had a heightened on-ball responsibility in this one without any point guards in the lineup. And then Josh Minot, so I guess for what it's worth, Jordan Walsh subbed in for Boucher, so maybe it makes sense to switch the positions for Minot and Walsh. I'm not there yet. We'll see how the rest of the preseason goes. But Minot was productive. 8.7 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals. Played 26 minutes. Let's head on over to the Grizzlies. They are without a lot of players so far this preseason. The starting lineup was Javon Small on a 2-way contract at the 1, Jalen Wells and Cedric Coward at the wing. Whoever you wanted to say is the 2 or the 3 on that configuration. Aldama at the 4, and then Lawson Lovering, who's on a training camp deal, was the starting 5. So maybe he's playing for a 2-way. He actually, Lovering was decent in this one, had 5 points, 6 rebounds, 2 of 2 from the field, 20 minutes. So, he's put himself on the radar. Jalen Wells had 21 in this one. Coward had 15 points, was 4 of 13 from the field, but made up for it with 7 of 7 from the free throw line. Vince Williams was over 7 from the field, so probably losing ground to those 2 guys on the wing. Let's head on over to the Golden State Warriors. They ran with the small ball lineup in their first preseason game. This time they ran big with Curry, Moody, Butler, Draymond, and Al Horford in the starting unit. Brandon Podziemski came off the bench, essentially as the backup point guard for Steph. So Hield came in for Moody. Quinton Post came in for Horford as the first substitutions of the game. And then Kuminga came in for Draymond, Pods for Curry, and then GP2 for Jimmy Butler. So that looks to be I think I like this lineup better than the small ball lineup. I can see Kerr switching between both theories of the lineup. I think Podziemski and Moody are Moody, who not Moody, Horford and Pods are probably going to be swapping in and out of the starting lineup for the duration of the season based on matchups. I like this lineup. The Warriors made a 21-point comeback against the Portland Trailblazers. For what it's worth, Quinton Post probably had a lot to do with that. He had 20 points and hit 4 threes off the bench. Horford himself was 0 for 4. He's probably not going to be looked on at for any type of scoring. But let's go look at the Blazers. They started Drew Holiday, Shaedon Sharpe, Tamani Kamara, and then no, not Denny Avdia, Jeremy Grant, and then Donovan Clingan. Jeremy Grant had 8 points on 2 for 11 shooting. I know it's preseason, but he made some grumblings about him wanting to start was like the biggest red flag of media day. everything was good vibes, and then Jeremy Grant said that it was like a record scratch moment, because like he's just not really part of the what they're doing at all. He's 31 years old. They're in the middle of a youth movement, but they're stuck on like this massive contract that they can't move. They waited too long to move him. He was awful last season. Denny Avdia was good off the bench, surprise, surprise, with 14 minutes. Maybe he's more amenable to coming off the bench than Jeremy Grant, and thus be more productive. I don't know. Tamani Kamara also was solid, 14 points, 4 threes. I think people would be higher on this team if this was just the front court moving forward. But Jansen Hang or Hansen Yang Hansen. There we go. I got it. He got a lot of summer league buzz, but not the greatest game in preseason. 4 points, but had 4 turnovers and fouled out in 21 minutes. So I'm not sure if he's actually going to factor in this season. Jesus Christ, I need to lower the rating for Robert Williams to get him above Donovan Clingan. So the rounding out the first, so the substitution patterns were Denny came in for Tamani Kamara. So I probably want to switch his position with Jeremy Grant's if Grant is going to be starting. Yang came in for Yang came in for Klingon, and then Wesley obviously came in for Drew since he's the only other point guard. Chris Murray came in for Jeremy Grant, so another reason to have those guys positions inverted. And then Tumani Kamara came in for Shaden Sharp. So the second unit was Wesley, Kamara, Murray, or Denny, and then Murray at the 4, and then Yang at the 5. So I know it's just only one preseason game so far, but Kamara, I would also want to switch his secondary position from the 4 to the 2, at least based on how this first game went. We'll see once we get a little further through the preseason. And then finishing off, we've got Raptors versus Kings. Barnes and Pirtle were out of the lineup, so they ran with quickly Barrett, Ingram, but then Ochai Obaji at the 4, and then Jonathan Magwa got another start at the 5. Ingram has looked good as a Raptor, 21 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 5 of 7 from 3. The threes are notable. He hasn't shot them in volume for most of his career, but if he is going to shoot them in volume for the Raptors, that's a pretty big deal because they really need three-point shooting in that first unit. Colin Murray Boyles was productive as the backup for Agbaji. He had 12 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists in 23 minutes. And then Grady Dick once again came off the bench with 14 points behind Brandon Ingram. So I think this is a more appropriate use of Dick than as the starting 2 guard. I like Barrett and Walter there as better slashers, and I think they complement Emmanuel Quickly a little bit better. Yeah, so not too bad for the Raptors. And then for the Kings, I basically have no notes. This is like the worst, the most boring team to discuss in the NBA. They ran with their starting lineup, and then their second unit was Ellis at the 1, Monk at the 2, Eubanks at the 5, Clifford at the 3, and then Isaac Jones rather than Saric is the backup 4. The bench sucks, and the starters, we've already seen this with the Chicago Bulls. So I don't know. And Schroeder wasn't anything special. I don't think he's a great fit with Sabonis or anything. So we're gonna end it there. Kind of a downer note with the ending on the Kings, but it is what it is. We have some interesting games coming up tomorrow. Kings Wolves, Kings Wolves, Kings Knicks. Wait, Kings Knicks, dude, I'm drunk. It's 4 in the morning as I record this. Minnesota Timberwolves and New York Knicks. Obviously, they made the big trade last year for Cat and Randall, so it's always good to see those teams match up. We've got Cleveland and Chicago, Milwaukee and Detroit. Charlotte and OKC are going to play again, and then we've got the Clippers playing against a Chinese team. Okay. All right. Clippers, of course, will be making their preseason debut, so a lot. We get to see that the new look Clippers tomorrow. Thanks for watching tonight, and bearing with me. My throat's a little sore as well, but we powered through. Be on the lookout for the next Real 2K recap. Peace.